Ladies and gentlemen, call Brister. The groove. Let's go. The groove.
Hey, what's up, groovy people? What's up? Welcome to the groove. I am your host. You guys already know that, Carl Brister, and you also know I am so happy that you are hanging out with me today. We have another groovy guest. We have Grammy-nominated jazz artist Nicole Z, and she's gonna be with us. You know, she's gonna be here. We're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about so many things. I have so much to talk about with Nicole. But listen, you know, this is the sweet spot. The groove in music is that sweet spot where everything comes together and everything locks and everything is just right. And we are all trying to get to that place in life, that groove where we're doing exactly what we were put here to do and make beautiful music out of our lives. Speaking of beautiful music, man, I could tell you right now, we need some of that right now. There's so much going on, so much happening that I feel like we need to get to our happy place. So I got just a song for you, just to show you that I appreciate you and love that you guys are hanging out. I want to take you to my happy place. This is a song that I call Turning Point. Now, when you watch, you know there's a part for you to sing on this one. So I don't care where you are, where you watching, I'm gonna need you guys to sing along. Check it out. This is Turning Point. Now listen, all the happy people, this is your heart. Let me give it to you real quick. Here we just some strings. Here we go. It goes like this. Whoa, oh, oh, whoa, oh, oh, whoa, oh, oh. Can I hear you give it a try? Come on, say, whoa. Hey, come on. One more time. Sound good, come on. Hey, come on. Here we go. I'm gonna turn point. I finally found my happy. I learned to live and let go, and finally I'm free and I'm gonna raise the bar. Fear gets behind me. All I need is excitement, I believe. That's the turn. Here we go. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on. One more time, come on. Say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Y'all sound good. Listen. Now once upon a time, so many things on my mind. I didn't know which way I was gonna go. The road was so hard for me on the inside. Had to make a choice, either I was going one way. I turn around and go back home the other way. But leaving give my all. Turning point. Finally found my happy. I learned to live and let go, and finally I'm free and I'm gonna raise the bar. Fear gets behind me. All I need is a Sunday, finally. Here we go, say. for you. Dreams don't come easy, but they can come true. I'm at a turning point. Finally found my happy. I've learned to live and let go finally. I'm free and I'm going more. Here gets behind me. All I need is Sunday finally. I'm the party for the day. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Ah, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, turning point. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Come on. Whoa, whoa. Let's get into the musicians for a minute. Come on, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. We need just a little bit more happiness in the world right now. If y'all believe that, make some noise. Make some noise. If I believe that's the turning point. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, we need some more happiness out here right now. Wherever you're at, I want you guys to remember that happy cry. Whoa, oh, oh, yeah. I want y'all to rock that. Turning Point. It's one of my favorite songs that I love performing. It always puts a smile on people's faces. When I wrote it, I was in a crazy place, and I needed to just sort of get myself out of the funk, you know? And those words came to me, and it was so much fun performing it there at Rockwood Music Hall at the Hootenanny. And that is where I met our groovy guest, Nicole Z. And I was there for her performance, which happened prior to mine. And man, she blew me away. I was so inspired. And you guys are gonna get a taste of what our guest does. And then we're gonna bring her right out. This is from her new project. Y'all check this out. It's called Burn.
When I didn't know that I could burn so slow. Deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo. All worlds colliding in this tableau. How sincere the depth of what you say. I'll stay, if only for today. When I didn't know that youth could seem so wise. Starting over, taken by surprise. All that's discovered within your eyes. And the spark that lit the fire inside, I'll try until I choose to run or say goodbye. Accents linger, trembling fingers, that certain look upon your face. And oh, the nervous fear of new beginnings, while I'm searching for excuses to let go. And no, I didn't know that I could burn so slow. Deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo. Courage invited to take a chance. I think I'll finally try a new romance. upon your face. And oh, the nervous fear of new beginnings while I'm searching for excuses to let go. And oh, I didn't know that I could burn so slow. Deceptive ease and constant flow of vertigo. Courage invited to take a chance. I think I'll finally try a new romance.
Yeah, dig it.
Yeah. Welcome to the groove, Nicole Z.
What's up, Carl?
That was Burn. That was hot, you know? I loved it, man. I love that song. And congratulations on the new project.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Exactly.
I loved your original song that you played right before this.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
singing along. I don't know if you saw me in the waiting room bopping along, singing along to that hook. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Turning Point. Yeah. You know, well, back to your video right there. I mean, you know, you had some heavyweights in the room with you. You know, of course, none other than Christian McBride, multi-Grammy winning bassist himself. What a wonderful collab. How did that come about?
Well, I did the Sarah Vaughan. It's actually, I think it's a really neat story, and I like to tell it because it sounds like a movie or something, you know, how they always say, oh, when you got your big break, you know. But you know, I didn't really do jazz full time until I was like 29 or 30 years old. I didn't really even have the courage to call myself a jazz singer until I was 30. And then I applied to the Sarah Vaughan competition, and then I got in, which is Sarah Vaughan International Jazz Vocal Competition. And there's 5 finalists, and I ended up, one of the judges was Christian, and I placed. And I didn't win, but it didn't matter because I was like so validated by the fact that
Right.
I was like, this is crazy. So I didn't get to meet him afterwards, and I was like, all right, well, that's that. Back to singing background gigs. So I was playing weddings, and I was playing at this place called the Red Eye Grill across from Carnegie Hall, and I played there for many years. And I was just playing across Carnegie Hall, and one day, a couple months later, I was practicing a jazz song because it was so slammed in there that you could barely hear yourself talk. And I was just like, no one's paying attention. I'll just like play Night in Tunisia. And then I look up, and there's Christian McBride, just being like, you sound great. Why do I know you? I recognize you. Why do I recognize you? And I was like, Sarah Vaughan. He's like, Sarah Vaughan, I remember you. And so that was in 2016. And then we just became fast friends and would hang out, you know, whenever he was around. He's the busiest man in show business.
Right. Of course.
And he always said, let's make music. And then, you know, after the pandemic, I was like, do you want to do that music thing? He's like, absolutely. So he produced the record and played bass, and it was like a really special thing to happen.
Wow. Did he produce 3 songs? All 3 of the collabs on the album?
No, he co-produced it with me, the whole record. Yeah. The whole album.
Wow.
And it's funny because Burn wasn't in the original batch of tunes. And when he gave me the list, you know, of tunes that he had chosen, I was like, oh, rats, we're really missing a song that would showcase Christian McBride.
Right.
And so I like went through my arsenal of tunes that I just reimagined this one. Speaking of groove, that song Burn was originally written as a ballad. And yeah, and I actually have a big band arrangement for it that my friend Brian Shaw did as a ballad. And then I was like, actually, this really could work up double time feel with a couple little tricks and turns in there. So that's how Burn came to be.
Wow. When I saw you at Rockwood, I remember I was hanging out with one of the musicians who's a good buddy, Al Cardi, was on bass. And so I was there early. I was there for the check-ins and the sound checks and everything. And I noticed right off the top when you got there, you started warming your voice up and doing various scales and things. That it was very cold. It was like December, and I noticed that vocalist to vocalist, And so here on The Groove, we do a warm up. We try to sort of, before we jump into the heavy stuff, we just sort of want to take our time to get to know the artists and the guests, so everybody can get a little bit more of your journey of how you got to where we are. And so I know that you were born and raised in Connecticut.
Yep.
Yeah. And I read that you were originally pursuing sports.
Is that in Wikipedia? Sure.
Yeah. Hey, I do my homework.
I sure was. I actually was really gifted at sports. Now I can barely walk up the stairs, I swear. But yeah, I had a penchant for sports. I also was really like a tall for my age, gigantic. You know, they always say big boned, extremely strong. So,
Euphemisms.
Yeah, I definitely played soccer extremely competitively. That's funny. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, according to sources, you were in training for the Olympics.
Oh yeah, it's called the Olympic Development Team for like
Okay.
youth. And I was, because again, like I just kind of excelled in soccer. They had me on the boys team playing soccer when I was in middle school because I was too strong for the girls, and it was like, that was really good for my self-esteem. Then I played Olympic development, but I was like the youngest person on the under like 16 and then under 18 team. But I was always a strange kind of egg. It's not like I was like part of that sport mentality. I was always a bizarre weirdo, who's like reading a book and journaling and listening to Pat Benatar and Blood, Sweat, and Tears and at like the camps, etc. But I love sports, but I was actually thrilled when I hurt myself in France. I tore my hip flexor.
Ah.
Yeah.
So then how'd you find your way from sports to music?
Well, the music was always there. My mom like saw me singing along to Zippity Doo-Dah when I was a kid and harmonizing. But along the same lines of like the big boned situation, I always had a really big voice. You have a huge voice. Just listen to it again. But I had a really big voice that I didn't have much control over. And like this kind of music that I loved to sing didn't come naturally to me. So like I wanted to sing Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, but my voice was like, I don't understand. So I wanted to take piano lessons, but I couldn't focus. So I just played by ear. And I ended up teaching myself to play the piano, which to any aspiring pianist that listen, please just keep going. It's so good to have those chops. Like,
yes.
It's so good. I just never was able to like focus enough to learn the piano properly, but that's what I do for a living now, which is very ironic.
I mean,
I'm not playing soccer.
You play very well. I would never know. You played live at Rockwood when I saw you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe sometimes with music, if you want to learn music, that's great. You should, and you should pursue it if it brings you joy and brings you happiness. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be Herbie Hancock to play the piano. It took me a long time for me to be like, oh, I can just say that I play the piano and I don't have to solo like, Bill Evans. Like I'm allowed to be a mediocre pianist. That's fine. Okay, great. But other things musically came extremely easy to me. So, it's a give and take.
Got you. Yeah. And then, well, you loved it enough to pursue it in college for vocals, right? You studied voice, and
Opera,
classical.
actually, yeah.
Yeah. So then how'd you transition from classically, classical music and opera to jazz? How'd you find your way there, and how'd you know that jazz was your home?
It's interesting because I didn't know jazz was my home for pretty much like the first 25 years, 30, 35 years of my life. um, because I really felt like there was a gigantic barrier that I wasn't understanding. And only
Mm,
within like the last 5 years or so, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, jazz. That makes sense. That makes sense for me. I can say I'm a jazz musician now. I think I've learned the language, I've studied the craft, I've honored the ancestors.
mhm,
I
mhm,
understand the root is Black American music. Like I get it now. I'm still learning.
mhm.
But the way that I found jazz was again that whole kind of theme of like big everything, but know where to put it. So I ended up going to school for opera with this huge voice, but there was a jazz camp where I was near me growing up that had just started, and so I started going there as a trombone player, and then I tried to go as a pianist, uh, both of which were a nightmare because I couldn't read music, and also I didn't understand jazz, and I was super bored by all the guys like standing around taking 20-minute solos. I was like, this is not entertaining to me at all. I hate jazz, as a kid. I made really cool friends who I actually just played last night with a bass
Ah,
player,
okay.
named Jonathan Michelle, who I met on the school bus to jazz camp, uh, over
Nice.
20, 30 years ago. Anyways, so, uh, but because I played the trombone, I got to play in jazz band in high school. And then from there, they were like, well, you should play in the community college band. I was like, oh, cool. And then that band director was like, you should sing with the band. And I was like,
Ah,
oh. So I went and got an Ella Fitzgerald CD at Strawberries, which is a CD store that was in Connecticut, and totally fell in love. Immediately could like imitate and parrot what she
hmm,
was doing, and it felt comfortable and easy and natural. Because imitation is the best form of flattery as a singer, I
right.
think, as you're
Yes.
learning like languages. Like we don't just come out of the womb riffing. Like we have to imitate someone do it.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I found that as I was pursuing the classical route, I was really missing the freedom of jazz, and I found myself writing more music. And there was that same jazz camp, the Litchfield Jazz Camp. I had been shadowing in the summers different jazz legends in exchange for scholarship, and I was learning about jazz. I was also getting extremely intimidated by jazz because I was, learning on the go. And a theme in my life has been like saying yes and then learning on the gig.
Uh,
Like, I don't know
uh-huh.
if I recommend that.
It's called
Uh,
improv.
yes, it was like undeniably improv, but I ended up coming back to it always. Like I was in folk bands and rock bands and blues bands and did the classical thing, but I always kind of came back to jazz. Something about it I loved. Um, and then I think with the form of like 55 Bar, which was a jazz club that was in the city,
Mhm.
that unfortunately closed during the pandemic. I got to play there for 7 years, once a month. And that's when I was like, "Oh, jazz isn't only like, uh, Tin Pan Alley. It isn't only Miles Davis kind of, electric project. It isn't only free jazz." I was like, "Oh, jazz runs a huge gamut, and I can kinda live in that space and be comfortable with whatever I create."
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I also have a classical vocal background.
I
Do you,
heard it.
did you?
I'm jealous.
So, but what I find is it's transferable. that do you see or find ways that your training in classical music has sort of helped you define your voice in jazz or
Totally,
or utilize it?
100%. And I would say that it was a journey because when I first started to do jazz professionally, um, I just sang everything in the original key because I was a classical singer. So I was like, why would I change the key when I could
Right.
just sing it in the original in the lead sheet? And I would sound like Minnie Mouse. Like, hide your heart from sight, lock your dreams at night. It could, like super high, ridiculous. Um, but then, I think there was a period of jazz where everyone was singing straight tone and it was
Mm,
all about like muffled and like low and blah blah blah. But there's been a huge resurgence of beautiful singers with huge instruments.
yes.
Um, within jazz, like Ella Fitzgerald had a huge instrument, Sarah Vaughan, huge instrument. Um, and there's a lot of current artists with these gigantic, gigantic vocal, powers. So
Yes.
that's been beautiful to see because I hear their classical influence within, sorry, my dog just came to say hello, within their jazz,
Hmm.
creations.
It's a genre and a culture that makes sure that you know where it started, and you know if you're going to be in this group, you have to know the history, and we need to see some knowledge of that in you when you perform. But then we want you to make it you. Is that, would you say that would be accurate?
Yeah, I would say because like I always say the language, the language, the language. And I was just giving a workshop at NYU where I teach now. I also went there for undergrad, so it's a full circle. I teach contemporary voice. But on the other hand, I think music is hard to teach sometimes because you're either gifted or you're not. And that to me is like what is like the difference in how people can go about doing music for a career. It's like, does music come easy to you? I find a lot of my students now, the music doesn't come easy to them. And I'm like, I can't teach like gift. I can teach you music
And skill.
and skill. So I don't know, is it learned? I don't know. I definitely learned. But music was always easy. I just
Right.
didn't have the language. So it's like, I don't know. It seems like I actually don't know the answers sometimes because I definitely learned how to sing jazz in a better way. It didn't just come naturally to me, but it
Right.
kind of did. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. You got me all twisted now. I was like,
I'm like,
no.
is it the chicken or the egg? I'm like, tell me, Carl.
Well, listen, to back up to one of your previous statements, some of the great artists that are out there that you gravitated to. You mentioned Sarah Vaughan. You mentioned Ella.
Hmm.
Were there any others?
I mean, I loved all the Christmas recording singers. Those like Nat King Cole, Bing
Yeah.
Crosby, Dean Martin, Sinatra. Um,
Sinatra, yes. Nat
I
King
just
Cole,
love those like beautiful,
yes.
beautiful warm toned singers. I fell in love with Eva Cassidy. I actually loved Jane Monheit, who is now a friend of mine. She's one of my biggest influences, mostly because I heard in her voice like a purity that I didn't hear in a lot of other jazz. But yeah, but I wasn't always just listening to jazz. I loved rock and roll
Ah,
and
okay.
funk.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm so happy you mentioned that because I would like for you to participate with me in this new segment on the Groove. It's called Jazzy's Joints. So DJ Jazzy Kazzy is my dad. He's a soul funk instrumentalist, guitarist. These are his guitars. and he's also a DJ, hip hop. And but as a DJ, he would always have a variety of music for every occasion, and he made sure that I was exposed to all kinds of music and songs. So I honor my dad with this segment, Jazzy's Joints, and I'm going to tell you all about it in just a second. You ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go.
Jazzy's Joints. Right here. Jazzy's Joints. You don't even have to say that. Jazzy's Joints.
All right, everybody, this is Jazzy's Joints. And listen, we have our groovy guest, Nicole Z, who's going to be here with me. So this is the way Jazzy Joints works. I have some vinyl records from my dad, Jazzy Kazzy's collection. And we're going to give about a minute. And I'm going to flash the album to you. And you are going to give me your first thing that comes to mind, whatever it was about the artist or a song on the album or where you were when you heard it.
Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible discographer. I'm warning you in advance. It's like a crux. It's an Achilles heel. Okay, I'm ready. Let's do this.
There we go. All right, and Whitney Houston.
Oh gosh, icon. I'll always love you. I'm every woman. I knew every song to every single song she ever sang. Greatest love of all. Obsessed.
Yes, that was on this album, Greatest Love of All. Okay. Duke Ellington. This is his 70th birthday concert. It's live, but anything about Duke?
I actually just love everything that he ever did with Billy Strayhorn. And Duke Ellington, I get to sing a lot of those tunes with big bands, and just amazing icon of jazz.
All right, here we go. Ray Charles.
Oh, I saw Ray Charles live at the Litchfield Jazz Festival.
Really?
Yeah, I always forget to cite him as one of my favorite artists of all time, but yeah, actually seeing him live blew my mind. And amazing songwriter, and every song that he does, even if he didn't write it, it makes it, people are like, oh, that's by Ray Charles, because he makes it.
Yeah. Now this one I'm going to explain. This is Lady Sings the Blues, the original vinyl. Diana Ross is singing Billie Holiday. Either or, Diana Ross, Billie Holiday. Any thoughts?
No kidding. Okay, so Billie Holiday. This is funny because both of them, for me, they aged like fine wine in my brain. So Diana Ross and Billie Holiday, growing up, I was like, meh. I don't really dig the disco. Don't really dig Billie. But the older I got, the more I was like, oh, I need them. I need them in my life. Oh, I get it. It's kind of like, don't sing Lush Life unless you're unless you understand the blues, you know. That's how I felt.
One more. Here we go. MC Hammer.
Oh man, I was just talking to Christian McBride about those like fly outfits around the. Listen, I was born in 85. MC Hammer, that was playing on the radio a little bit for me.
Okay, I'm not gonna kill you with that one.
You don't have to kill me with MC. I'm just like, can't touch this.
All right, guys, this is Jazzy's Joints.
Jazzy's Joints. Right here. Jazzy's Joints. You don't even have to say that. Jazzy's Joints.
All right, yeah. So Nicole is going to be right back shortly. This was a great Jazzy's Joints. I think I got her with the MC Hammer. So listen, guys, you all know the Love and Unity Fest is going to be coming back in May 13th through the 18th. If you don't know already, this is an outreach that I started in 2016 to use the arts to bring people together. So I want you guys to check this out, and then we're going to come back with Nicole and talk about this a little bit. We see a lot of divisiveness in our neighborhoods, in the news, and in our relationships. It separates us from coming together as human beings. But we can change the story by coming together and celebrating our diversity and bringing positivity to counter the negativity through the power of love. And music has always been a way to bring people together. Hi, I'm Carl Brister, singer, songwriter, recording artist, and dad to these guys, Justin and Jordan. And I want to personally invite you to the Love and Unity Fest, where we can spread love through great performances from different styles from across the globe. There'll be food trucks and fun activities for the kids, right guys?
Yeah.
So let's come together and we can send the greatest message of all out to the world.
Love.
Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2 of The Groove with your host, Carl Brister, featuring guest Nicole Z.